Okay, the recording has started. Take it away.
Okay. So I will just share my screen. Did you make me the presenter?
Hold on one second. Let me see what's going on here. It's not letting me. Oh, there we go. There it goes.
Okay.
All right, you should be all set now.
Okay. So hi everybody, I'm Gil. I am working in the product team of the continuous delivery edition of release automation. And today we want to show you the new, relatively new product that we're working on. What I'm showing you today is under a strict non-disclosure agreement, so take it under consideration. Let's start by a quick overview before we get to the real demo and see what this product is going to help you do. Okay. So continuous delivery is the ability to reliably release high-quality applications at any time. What are the details of this ability? They are written over here. First of all, you should be able to accelerate your deliveries. You want to maintain the high quality, so you still want to reduce errors, of course. Your releases are complex because you have many small releases done by different teams, and you want to be able to manage that complexity, this new complexity. Also, you want to increase the visibility because you don't want your release managers running around asking the team members for every little detail, what is the status of this task, what is going on with that. You want to increase the visibility. It always helps when you want to manage these big and complex releases. Together with that, you also want to increase and drive the collaboration between the team members, between the different teams, and between the different stakeholders in your organization. Again, for example, the release managers and the team members, the developers. You want to be able to increase the collaboration between them. Last, you want to continuously improve your release cycle, your release process. You want to optimize it and to make it better all the time. So what we're seeing here is the maturity model of companies, customers like you and like us, people who are developing software. This shows that a few years ago, most of us, and most of you, were manually managing your deployments, and well, we didn't have releases back then. Manually writing and scripting. As time went by, people wrote more and more scripts, and eventually arrived to being automated. Of course, the way you do that is using release automation, which helps you automate your deployments, helps you make it much more errorless and fast, and that is where most of our customers are. They are fully automated and ready to continue and improve. The next stage is to be continuous, which is what we just saw in the previous slide, to be able at any moment to release and eventually to optimize. So this is the solution set that we will talk about, the right part of it today. The solution set is built from the core release automation that all of you know as you are release automation customers. You know release automation. It helps you, again, to automate your deployments. You can orchestrate the whole deployment process. using the action packs, and it really makes this whole process very easy. And now the continuous delivery edition will help you on the higher level of the releases. It will help you plan and manage your releases. And when we say release, a release is built from many more things around the deployment itself, that today you don't have a tool or a product that helps you manage that. Okay, so let's briefly go over the things that release automation, the core release automation helps you do. So first of all, of course, you manage your artifacts, you bring them to all your remote servers, you configure the deployment operations, the workflow with the workflow engine, the graphic UI where you can drag your flows and build your processes. Of course, we encourage you to reuse the shared components to enforce a very good practice across your whole organization. You can orchestrate with whatever tool you want with the various action packs that exist in release automation, and monitor the deployments. This is what you well know today and use and are pleased with. And what we're trying to add is the following. First of all, you want to be able to design a pipeline for your release. Not only to manually select the environment you're going to, this environment I'm going to deploy right now, after that I will deploy on that one. You want to build it as a pipeline to be able to, again, enforce it across your organization, and to be able to say, for every feature, story, defect that I am now bringing to production, this is the set of environment phases it has to go through. So this is the ability to design a pipeline. Next, you want to be able to execute many releases. So you want to be able to set the timeline to see if you have conflict. You want to be able to set multiple applications in one release. They can be developed by different teams, but usually they are brought together to production. You want to plan and manage the timeline. So again, it relates to the previous point, but when you have many teams developing independently, you want to see the multiple releases to know what is happening when. If you have shared resources that cause conflict, you want to be able to see that. You want to, first of all, visibility and help in designing. So we will see that in the demo. Assign dynamic teams and increase collaboration. So we know that teams can change. It depends what feature you're working on. You want to be able to give ownership inside your releases to different teams and different people. And also to increase collaboration, like I said before. And again, we'll see how we do that in our product. Manage and track the content. So we believe the content is a very major piece inside a release. When we say content, we mean the business value that you deliver, the features or the stories, defects, the thing that is not only the artifact or the binaries, but the business value itself. It is a big part of the release. It is what you want usually to track. You want to be able to know whether a certain feature is already deployed on production, when is it going to get there. So we put the content as part of a release. And last, you want to be able to optimize the releases, to detect the bottlenecks, see where you are slow, and to investigate and to make it better. So for that, we are building the dashboard widgets and the reports. And again, we'll see it in the demo. Before I go on to the demo, I just want to remind you that if you have any questions, you can just write them in the chat, and we will try to answer them as we are going on. Okay, so now I will share the demo. Okay. So this is the product. This is the Continuous Delivery Edition. And we are now in the page that is called Releases. This is the page where you see all your active releases. You have your running releases. You have the ones that are already done, and you have the ones that are in design. What is a release? So I talked about it a bit before, but a release, theoretically, is when you want to bring a new feature or user story or defect or any code change to production. That is a release. Usually, in what we see in customers, and we know from ourselves also, is that a release is equivalent to a sprint. You have different teams that work independently, that have different sprint timelines, and each one can be a release, and that is the best practice. So in this example, we have a company here that has 3 teams that are working independently and have their, each one has its releases. You can also have a release, a different kind of release that is a hotfix release that will be different, will probably have a different pipeline than your regular sprint releases. But again, the hotfix will bring some kind of fix to production. You can see here that the releases have different affect different applications. So again, we will see it in a minute inside the release. So let's drill into a specific release and talk about what a release is built from. Okay, so first of all, like I said, a release is built from usually multiple applications. While core release automation is application-centric and focuses on how to deploy a specific application, we know that a release is 99% of the time built from multiple applications. Sometimes they have dependencies between them, sometimes they don't, but when you bring something to production, you usually don't do it for one application only. So you can map to your release as many applications as you want, and you can, of course, set the version of the release, the version that the release will, the application, sorry, will be at the end of the release. So, for example, here I have 2 applications. The first one is adopt a pet, and the second one is pet info. By the end of this release of pets sprint 6, the application that is called adopt a pet will be 3.2.5 and pet info will be 3.0. That will be the version. So that is about the application. Now, we talked about the content. So under an application, we want to define the content that is going to be delivered under this application in this release. We don't expect you, of course, to type in your content here, because the way that all of us handle our content is in the ALM tools. For example, Rally, Jira, etc., etc. So what we built here is a plugin framework, and this is the first example. We will see more examples that allows you to import the content from these ALM tools to the release. In this example, I imported this content from Rally. So we have integration with Rally, of course, out of the box, and with Jira also, with the same capabilities. So when you manage your content in Rally, you usually manage it in iterations. You have the different types. You have features, defects, stories, and tasks. And when you want to import here, you just filter. Okay, you have to select the iteration, the release, what type you want to bring, and that brings the relevant content to your release. So this is the content. Okay. So now that we know about the applications inside the release and about the content, let's go on to the workflow, the pipeline. The way a release is built, the pipeline of the release, is using phases and tasks. A phase stands for one or more environments And tasks are the things you have to do for that environment. In this example, again, I have 3 phases: end of development, testing UAT, and production. I have different tasks inside each one, and remember, this is an example from what I saw from different run books of customers that I've seen. You have many tasks under production, a lot of the things you have to configure before you deploy. You have to have different people doing these different tasks, and I will show how we help you make it easier to manage all that. Okay, so the phases. Like I said, they are mapped to environments. They can start running either manually, automatic, or to be scheduled to a certain date and time. Now let's go over the tasks themselves. So the most simple kind of task that we have is a manual one. And again, when I look at run books of customers, the list, the Excel sheets that they have, that you have when you want to manage your release, you have many manual things that need to be done. So these are the manual tasks. You can assign them to a certain person, or just leave it without a certain person in charge. And when you want to change the status, you just do it manually. But we also have the plugin framework that I mentioned before that allows you to write your own plugins or to use the out-of-the-box plugins. What we have here is a run deployment task, which is an integration with the core release automation. This task allows you to run a deployment in release automation. So the way a phase is usually built is you have several manual tasks, then you want to deploy the new application version that is going to be deployed by this release, and then maybe run some tests or do anything else. We also have another type of task, which is a REST call, a generic REST call. This gives you a lot of options in how to use this kind of task. In this example, I used the REST call to notify my team in Slack. Okay. Let's see the activity panel before we execute the release. The activity panel is where we try to help you increase the collaboration, and this is like the logbook of the release. So you can see here all the important things that happened during the release, of course with the credentials of the user that did it if it was something manual, and you can also add your own comments. So you can share your thoughts or your comments or your reason why you did something in the logbook. Okay. Let's now see how you execute a release. So I'm starting, well, not this one, I'll do another one. Okay. Let's look at this one. So in this release, this one is already running. You can see that this task is pending. So it's a manual task that is waiting for someone to come and change the status. I will change the status to done. And since these are automatic tasks, they will just start running. Now, let's say that something fails. I can always rerun the phase. So if something fails, if the deployment fails, for example, I will go to the development team, ask them for a new build or to fix whatever failed, and then I will just change the deployment plan inside this task and run it again. I can reiterate the phase as many times as I want until it passes my requirements. And again, this is meant for you to keep the quality, to run it again and again until you have a good enough version to proceed to the testing and to the production eventually. Okay, so this is how we run the release. Usually you have automatic phases. You don't want someone to come and run them. You just want them to start running when the previous phase is done. Okay, so we've seen one release, what it's built from, how you run it. Now let's see how you manage multiple releases. So if you are a release manager or a Scrum Master, you have more than one release and you want to be able to manage that. So in the calendar, you have all your releases, okay, here. You can see the release and all the phases under it. So this is a release and its phases. Each phase is marked here with this bar, and you can see the icon stands for how it starts running. Each release has a different color. And what additional information that you can see here is the maintenance window. So let's talk a bit about conflicts and how we help you solve that. Like I mentioned before, when you have many releases, many teams, and they are using shared resources, they can have conflicts. For example, if two teams are trying to use the same environment at the same time, it's a conflict. Another kind of conflict that you might have is exceeding a maintenance window. So you know better than me that in production you have only several time ranges where you are allowed to deploy, because you don't want to have a downtime when there are important times with a lot of traffic. So what you can do here, you can define a maintenance window, which is the window in which you are allowed to deploy. And we will show you in the calendar the maintenance window that is relevant for this specific phase. So you can see here the gray bar is the maintenance window that is relevant for this production environment. If I now make this exceed the maintenance window, then you can see that you have a conflict. It is red. You can see it also in the level of the release and in the specific phase. You can see what kind of conflict you have and solve it from here just by changing the time, the scheduled time for this phase. So the calendar, again, it gives you a good view of all your releases. What is running is the one with the dark color, and the ones that are opaque are the ones that are planned. And of course, like you just saw, you can move it and stretch it to schedule it from the calendar itself. You can, of course, open to see the details of the phase from here. So this is a very good view for the person in your organization that is managing multiple teams, multiple releases. Okay, now let's go to the dashboard and see with what widgets we have here to help you in your day-to-day job of managing these releases. So first of all, we have the release productivity. Well, I usually explain that we have two types of widgets, one that helps you with your immediate problems, and the other that helps you try to optimize your work. So the widgets that help you optimize your work are the ones that give you statistics about your releases. For example, the release productivity shows you the percent of automated tasks that you have, the time spent in the automated tasks, and the failure rate. So you can see in this example, you have 36% of your tasks, they are automated, and only 1% of the time is spent in the automated tasks. So what it means is that the automated tasks run much faster than the ones that have to be done manually. Of course, it comes to encourage you to be more automated, to use the plugins, to write your own plugins, because it makes the release much shorter. Another one is the cycle time. So here I just show it on only one release, but you can see it on many releases, on your releases. What you see is the duration of each phase in this release. You can see that in the release Shopping Sprint 2, the second phase, the testing, took a long time, but that was good because later on the production phases was short. If you see a different situation where the production is long, then you should assume, your conclusion should be that the testing is not done good enough. So this shows you the phases. And we have the release idle time that tries to show you the dead times that nothing happened and the system was pending for a user to do something. Again, it encourages you to automate because then you don't have idle time. The tasks just start running immediately. So these are the widgets that we have to help you optimize the releases. The other kind of widgets that show you bottlenecks and immediate problems are the health that shows you the active releases with the indication panel of each one, meaning it shows you pending tasks, if you have warnings, and if you have a failure, you will also see it here. Of course, you can drill into the release from here. My to-dos widget shows you your own pending task. So this task I am the owner of and it is pending. I can again drill in from here and do it. And last one is the slow tasks. So I have no task that is running over 4 hours, but if I want to see a task that is running over 10 minutes, then here I have one and I can see and again drill in from here. So that is the dashboard. Of course, you can have several tabs inside the dashboard and configure your own tab as you please. Okay. Next, we will see the report, the content report. Okay, we saw inside the release that you map content to your release. In this report, we help you track a specific content item. For example, if I want to know when this user story, the notifications for a phase owner, when will it be ready, or when is it going to be deployed, I can see in this report that it is already deployed on testing UAT and on production. This user story is scheduled to be deployed on these 3 phases on these dates. So this is like a pipeline report for content because, again, we believe that the business value is the center of the releases and it is something that you should be able to track easily. Okay. Let me see that I haven't forgotten anything. Okay. Last thing that I want to show is talk a bit more about the plugins. Okay, so we built this plugin framework to make it easier and to make it very easy to write your own plugins. It works more or less like a webhook. You only have to you can write the plugin in whatever language you want. You just have to have the manifest written in the structure that we expect it. And the plugin can do anything with any external third party that has a REST API. We, of course, are adding more plugins and trying to help you orchestrate your releases. That's it. I covered all the things I wanted to cover. So now is a good time for questions. Don't be shy.
Hey everybody, if you are on the phone line, you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions over the audio. I do know we have quite a few questions that have come in via the Q&A box, and I think so far all of them have been answered. Excuse me, but feel free to keep asking those questions, or like I said, you can unmute yourself if you're on the phone line and ask your questions verbally.
Okay, until someone thinks of a question he wants to ask, I will tell you that We are now working on the third release. We had the first release, the GA, a couple of months ago, and then we had a short release. When we work, we have design partners, which are some of you, our customers. We have an open discussion about the things that we want to add to the product, to hear the needs that come from the field, of course, and to try to build it that in a way that will answer these needs. For example, there is a common question or a subject that is raised about tracking dependencies between applications. I think it's a burning issue, but I think each one of you has a bit of a different need or sees it in a different way. So this is just one example of me trying to, pick or hear from you what exactly the problem is in your organization, and then to try to build something that will give the answer to all.
Hi, Gil. There actually is a question that came in privately to me, so I'll go ahead and read it to you. Could you please talk about the primary differences in 6.1 compared to the previous release?
Okay. So 6.1 compared to 6.0, of course. 6.1 was a short release. It was 1 month, and yet we managed to add a few important features. First of all, we added LDAP integration. So now you can configure your LDAP server and import users and groups from your LDAP and put them as owners of tasks and phases inside your releases. We also released the Jira plugin in 6.1. We added the ability to test the connection to the endpoints. So before 6.1, in 6.0, you would configure an endpoint to a third-party tool, but the next time you would see if you configured it correctly was only when you run the release, and if you have a typo or anything else that is wrong, your task would fail. So that was very not good enough, of course, and we improved it. So now when you add an endpoint, you can test the connection, see that everything is okay, and then continue using this endpoint. We also added some filters in the calendar, and of course bug fixes that we found during 6.0. Okay. Any more questions?
There's another one that's currently, someone's already answering it in the Q&A. So I guess we can continue letting Walter and Mimi do that. One more question just came in privately to me. Were there any changes to the design studio?
In the design studio of the core RA? Whoever asked that, I guess that's what you mean.
Yes.
So
yes, that's what he means.
Okay, so Uli, you want to? There wasn't anything I know of, but Uli probably will answer better about that. Okay, not any change in 6.0.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. I was not sure I was able to unmute myself. So for the design studio, there are no major changes, but we did in terms of functionality, but we did improve significantly the performance of the studio compared to our previous releases. And we also did some usability improvements. All that is being documented in our release notes. So those who are interested, you can see the release notes, and you can see exactly what was improved.
Great, thank you for that. I don't see any further questions that have come in. Just so everyone on the call knows, later today, either Mel or I will post the replay for this webcast. So if there's any questions that come in after the fact, feel free to ask them in the community. And if there aren't any other questions, I think we can probably wrap up for today.
Yeah, you can always post questions in the community for CDE, of course, also. We answer them in there also.
Okay, there's one other question that's being answered in the Q&A. So I will keep the Q&A open for a couple minutes. I think everyone else can drop off the call, and if you have any questions, feel free and ask them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we answer everything there before we shut it down. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for joining us today, everybody.
Thank you.